You may not want to hear this, but I do have something that you need to be aware of. It is right there in writing. We have less than 60 days to find out how far this president is willing to push his powers. That's because while a lot of people are talking about martial law, not many people notice that the president already signed something, an executive order, demanding that the secretaries of the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Defense issue him a report as to whether or not to implement the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act allows the president to deploy the military and National Guard to suppress civil disorder.
Okay, that's enough of that. No hate to that creator at all. I don't like his content. I find it unnecessarily alarmist and bleak. I find it inflammatory and unhelpful most of the time. But I'm not trying to pick on him, despite the fact that this is 2 videos in a row of his that I have critiqued. But he is bringing up the Insurrection Act, which is something that I have talked about before. And I've talked about the fact that I get in my comments several times every single day, especially on YouTube, which I think tends to have a more conservative audience. It tends to be more Europeans, and it tends to be an older demographic than I have on TikTok. I get this comment of like, we can't protest, we can't exercise our First Amendment rights because we risk Trump invoking martial law. I made a video talking about that fear and whether it is legitimate or not. I posted it here and it was removed with no opportunity to appeal. So if you want to watch it, go over to YouTube. Everything I said in that video was factual, but I probably swore too many times or something. And I understand that this creator in particular likes to take an ominous tone and likes to use particular phrasing and a particular cadence that gets people feeling very anxious because then they'll want to watch his video. But this fear of Trump rolling out the military to suppress people engaging in exercising their constitutional rights to protest, to gather, to speak up against authoritarianism, I feel that that fear is largely unfounded. And I'm not basing that just off of my own hope. Many experts, including the one I'm going to show you in just a second, have also said that martial law is not something that can be effectively implemented, nor can it be maintained in the United States. It's just simply not feasible because of the military to civilian ratio in this country, and also the size of our nation, like physically, how spread out we are and how large our population is. It's just not. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to show you a clip from Knitting Cult Lady. Please go follow her. She has written extensively about cults. She is an expert on cults, leaving cults. She is also a former armed services captain, so she knows what she's talking about here, both when it comes to the cult of MAGA and the risk of that cult using military power. I love her content, and if she recommends a book, you should go read it.
Y'all, something we can do in crazy times of societal change, when we know that cults and con artists and conspiracy theories are going to be popping up everywhere, is to ask a lot of questions. So when you hear delulu things like this, that all these left white liberal women have been saying, oh, he's going to invoke martial law so that you can't protest, no more military, and then we're going to have elections. Stop. Tell us your plan. Tell us your plan with 2 million members of the Department of Defense, how you are going to control a country of 340 million people, the size of the United States, with borders that are impossible to close. Tell us your plan. We will be here waiting. She comes back and says that she's a military veteran. Doesn't say what she did, but I can guarantee you it wasn't operations, because there is nobody that understands military operations that is talking to you about martial law right now.
Okay, I just love her. She does not mince words and she knows what she's talking about. She's also said in other videos that when people are afraid that the military will side with Trump and commit violence against the American people, that she very much believes that the military will uphold their oath to the Constitution and prioritize that above all. So she's not worried about it. She brings up a really good point here as well, that there is fear-mongering coming from both liberals, and I guess that guy was a socialist, but coming from white folks who are unnecessarily getting people to be fearful and deterring people from exercising their rights. I've said before that if you are so afraid of martial law being enacted that you are deterred from exercising your constitutional rights, then we already functionally have martial law. If the threat of it is enough to stop you from exercising your rights, to defend democracy, to defend your way of life, to defend your liberty, then functionally we already have it. He doesn't actually have to roll out the troops. The threat is sufficient. And that is entirely why we say we do not comply in advance. We do not obey in advance. We do not freely cede our rights because we are fearful. We need to understand that feelings are not facts. Are things very dire right now? Yes, absolutely they are. I am never going to be somebody to minimize what is happening in the United States right now. Do I understand that if we don't push back against fascism, that it will get much, much worse? Yes, I do. While we still have our constitutional rights, we must use them and we must not cede them. We cannot operate out of a fear of what may happen. And we definitely cannot operate on the assumption that an executive order is law, because it's not necessarily. Look how many of Trump's executive orders have already been successfully challenged in court. Look at how many he's already undone because they've been an unmitigated disaster. Do we need to be aware? Do we need to be informed? Yes. Do we need to be borrowing trouble? No. Should we be ceding our rights in advance? No. Absolutely not. There is a sense of urgency. We, the people, do have the collective power. We need to continue to come together to form community, reach out to those grassroots organizations, get plugged in, join the resistance, join the defense of our liberty. Do not be deterred. Do not be afraid from joining a local group, from showing up to a protest, from engaging in an economic boycott, from calling your elected officials. Do not be deterred from taking any of those steps that are your protected speech, that are absolutely your right to exercise. Do not let the threat of martial law. Bullies are very good at getting people to comply because of threats. After all, we have heard that so many Republicans in Congress they're really good people, y'all. It's just that their lives and the lives of their family are being threatened by Donald Trump. There's been reporting in multiple newspapers, including The Guardian, that have said as much. My own congresswoman said as much, that Republicans in the House are being threatened by Donald Trump, and so they are buckling and they are complying. Bullies only have that kind of power because we choose to cede our own, because our fear overrides our duty to do what is right. I just want to encourage you, when you watch videos like that one I showed at the beginning, I don't want you to be so afraid that you become frozen. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I don't want you to give up. I want you to understand that that video was meant to scare the shit out of you, because it gets engagement. And I understand perhaps the creator is wanting people then to act, but I know when I see his content, I get very, very anxious and I want to do the opposite. And I don't want you to feel that way. You absolutely have the right to stand up for yourself. You have the right to protest. You have the right to gather. You have the right to defend your constitutional rights. You have a right to defend our democracy. Please do not be deterred. Please meet with people in real life. Please join up with your local grassroots movements, because that's where you're going to find encouragement and strength to continue to do the good work that needs to be done.